As a child, you may have been a victim to taking on a certain limiting self-image or taking on certain beliefs that have embedded themselves within your subconscious mind. And these may have been linked to certain events or circumstances within your childhood that had a heightened emotional footprint on your child self. And something that really had a profound effect in shifting or creating your self-image. Now, when I was a child, I took on a certain self-image that seen myself as an outcast, seen myself as a reject, seen myself as being not worthy of the company of others, being lesser than they were. And it was one particular event that really had a very profound effect on my child self. And during this event, there were a group of individuals who were in my same age group, people in a very small, close-knit community. And during this time, one of the individuals decided to have a house party, and they invited everybody in the neighborhood. And I was unfortunately left out of the invite. And because I didn't live too far, I was observing as all the kids were going to this house party that they were invited to. And I was left out, and it filled me with this deep feelings of rejection, this deep feeling of not fitting in, of being an outcast. And as a young child at that stage, I didn't have good enough perspective or the adult-like intelligence and rationalization to be able to process through it. So unfortunately, I felt a lot of these emotions, and I shifted my self-image to someone who is a reject, someone who doesn't fit in. And I constantly had to strive in my life to try and overcome that, to try and achieve something to break that image. But no matter how hard I tried, because that had imprinted itself within my subconscious mind, there were constantly similar types of circumstances that continued to take place throughout my life. Almost like a pattern that continues throughout your life. And it's only once I started to become more consciously aware of this belief that I had taken as these events continued to take place. I would realize, even very recently, there was a group that I was part of, and they'd created a WhatsApp group. And very conveniently, the person messaged to find out if anyone was interested in a certain event that was taking place. And conveniently, I was left out of it. And at that stage, that feelings of rejection, that feelings of being an outcast, that there's something wrong with me, maybe I'm doing something wrong in this situation. What is wrong with me? That lack of self-worth started to come back, and those very same emotions started to percolate again within my mind. And this was my opportunity now to bring in that conscious awareness and start to reflect on it, and recognize that it was no different than that very same scenario that took place during my childhood days. It was about me starting to bring in conscious awareness and start to shift my response to that. Rather than continuing to reinforce that image of an outcast, of a reject, it was my opportunity to now shift it, to respond differently. Because there were many events, circumstances in my life, throughout my life, that continued to reinforce it. And each time I would play into it and become a victim of these circumstances and events and allow myself to reinforce that self-image. So maybe you may be going through something similar. And thus is an opportunity for us to take that step back and to really reflect on whether that self-image is serving us or it's proving to be to our detriment. There's something really important that I learned, and it's this notion of the world being a mirror of our own inner beliefs. If we carry a certain image, there'll be more and more events, circumstances, situations that we find ourselves that will reinforce that very self-image. And a lot of this is about starting to recognize that I can shift my reality if I can shift the internal beliefs, self-image that I'm so much holding on to. Because all of these are embedded within our subconscious mind. And sometimes we may not even be aware of it. We may not be aware of the beliefs that have embedded within our subconscious mind, because it may have taken place in our childhood and we may have many years since that time and forgotten a lot of it. And I find that we don't necessarily need to remember that particular circumstance, because these events happened throughout our lives. There were so many different situations that happened in the not too distant past that brought about that same emotions, that same beliefs, those same self-limiting self-image. And this is the opportunity to just take that and recognize the limiting self-image and start to shift it into something that can be more conducive to your growth. Now, when we have these types of situations that present themselves in our life, it can be hard in the moment to immediately put yourself in that objective space. I often get caught up within that emotional cycle, and I find it really hard to be able to immediately extricate myself. And it's okay. It's okay to find yourself in that very low emotional state when these events present themselves. But take that opportunity as well to take that step back. What I found personally to be really helpful is to give myself permission to just experience it and allow my mind to do what it's normally going to do. The ego loves to gravitate on these low emotional states and tend to pull us down and try and reinforce that limitation. And sometimes it's just about taking that step back, and after the emotions have calmed down, maybe take out a pen and a journal and just journal through those emotions. And it's a very helpful exercise, I find, when we can take out a pen and paper and start journaling things. For me, it's proven to be that ability to take that step back and read what I wrote, because I find it really hard to become the observer in the moment. I guess I still need a lot more practice in order to become so hyper aware that I can just immediately take on that observer role. But if you find yourself facing a similar difficulty, having a journal and a pen and just allowing all those emotions, just unfolding it within that paper and allowing yourself then to reflect on it and objectively ask yourself whether those beliefs and that image really resonates with your authentic self. Is it the values and the self-image that you hold on to? And this is the opportunity then to start to shift your reaction to it. And what I found to be really helpful is once you can become aware of these situations that continuously reoccur in our lives, this is the opportunity then to start to find the contrasting events. So in my life, there were also numerous events when I was included, when I was made to feel part of a group and I was included in it. And oftentimes we overlook this. We we don't attribute that sense of gratitude. We don't end up celebrating those oppositions to the self-image that we've taken. And this is something that I found so helpful. If we want to shift ourselves away from being a reject, away from being an outcast, away from being someone that's always forgotten, someone that is invisible, this is the opportunity now to shift it. Celebrate the wins, start expressing gratitude, doing something that's going to raise your emotions, and really take in that image. I'm not a reject. I'm not somebody who is always forgotten. Celebrate the wins. Celebrate the wins, because that is going to also allow you to become or reinforce a new self-image. Visualization practices are another practice that can help. Affirmations, all these things can help. And some people may say affirmations, but they don't really do anything. And I'm constantly saying this thing, but I'm not really becoming popular, and I don't really feel the effects within my life. I say whatever tools you have, throw it at the problem. Try and do your best to become aware. But one of the most important things to me that helped me along this path is starting to become aware of it and starting to celebrate the events, circumstances that prove the self-image that you want, that the one that you seek. Start to celebrate those. And when these negative circumstances come about in our life, this is the opportunity then to start to now shift your image and respond differently. And the more we practice with these events, the more we start to shift away from that same reaction and allow ourselves to respond differently, to program within our mind a new self-image, a self-image that serves the destination towards which we are heading. So if any of this content resonated with you, please do like, share, and subscribe. Please leave your comments down in the comment section below if this is something you've experienced or something you processing through or you becoming more aware of as you're going through this process of shadow work or self-unfoldment. And thank you so much for watching right until the end. And with that, I'll see you in my next video.